I don't know who's naming those plants, but we need to have a serious conversation. Things need to be more accurate here because it's very confusing. Because these plants are not Italian or African or come from the Amazon forest. They actually originated from Indonesia. Hi, friends.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Hi, friends. So today we have another investigative video for you. We're going to talk about the difference between the Alocasia Polly, that is these two plants here, and the Alocasia Bambino. And if you're new here, I'm Larissa, and in this channel we try to make plant parenting easier by explaining how plants work.
Yeah.
We also butcher English every week. So I did a lot of research about these plants and I found a lot of cool stuff about it. And before I start telling you the difference between the two plants, how to care for them, how to tell them apart, I want to tell you about how plants' names work. Like who gets to decide that this plant is different enough from this plant to be called a different name and to be sold with a different name and sometimes even with a very different price. So it's not people are going in the forest and finding these plants, like somebody went to this really secluded forest behind the mountains somewhere and found a new species of Alocasia. It's not how it happens. What's happening is this is a business and this is a market like any other. And these plants are being cultivated by the growers, by the companies that are in the business of selling these plants. And like a lot of companies, they want to come up with new products every now and then, like other brands do. Like for instance, in the fashion industry, you have new collections coming up pretty frequently now. So they try to come up with new products, but the thing is, you cannot just make a new product. You cannot just, buy a different type of fabric and create a new design. You actually have to work with the plants you have. So the growers are always breeding plants together, propagating parts of the plants that they want, they think will be more attractive to the customers. Sometimes they come up with very unique varieties that can be sold in a very high price. I'm not talking about this one, but you know the kind of plants I'm talking about. Plants that can be sold for like $500, like a plant this size, because it's very rare. So because of that, there is also patent involved. So the names of a lot of plants are names created by the companies who created those plants, and often they patent those names, so only them can commercialize the plant under these names. In the case of alocasias, according to my research, there are around 75 different varieties of alocasias out there in the market, and a lot of them are not patented. So you see a business opportunity there. So the Alocasia Polly, for instance, I don't know why, because it's so popular, but nobody registered the patent for the name Alocasia Polly. The Alocasia Bambino, it looks like people patented, but I couldn't find who did it, who created this cultivar, and in what conditions. If you know anything about it, let me know in the comments down below. But let's talk about their names. So this plant's called Alocasia Polly. Sometimes it's called Alocasia amazonica. Sometimes it's called African mask. And this is called Alocasia Bambino. And Bambino means child in Italian. And it's also called Alocasia arrow or Alocasia dwarf. And it's very interesting because these plants are not Italian or African or come from the Amazon forest. They actually originated from Indonesia. So I don't know who's naming those plants, but we need to have a serious conversation. Things need to be more accurate here because it's very confusing. Anyways, so that's the story behind the name of the plants. And what's the difference behind these two plants? Actually, I forgot to tell you, but it all started because my partner got an Alocasia Bambino around the same time I got an Alocasia Polly, that is this plant here. And we thought it was the same plant, just, a younger version. But over time, it wouldn't grow. and mine was growing and his was not, and we were like, okay, something's happening here. And then we did some research and found out all those things. So we went ahead. I'm sorry, I'm not cursing. So we went ahead. Oh, there's a little tuber here. Sorry, distracted. We went ahead and we bought a baby Alocasia Polly so you can actually see the difference. The Alocasia Bambino, it's called also Alocasia arrow because it looks like an arrowhead. It's very pointy and elongated, and of course the main difference is also in the size. So if I give these two plants the same light conditions, this plant is gonna grow big as this one, while this one is gonna probably stay small like this, at least indoors. Also, the Alocasia Polly, it has this very ebbs and flows around the border. You see it's very heavy. And the Alocasia Bambino is more, a straight line, more smooth, more like a pointy arrow. Another difference that I noticed is that, and if you watch my video on Alocasia dormancy, you're gonna understand how the Alocasia uses its energy. But to summarize it, every leaf in an Alocasia is a lot of energy that the plants use to keep the leaf alive. We need to stop for a moment because my cat's gonna destroy the studio. Do you mind? Can you give me a minute? Just a minute? Like 30 seconds. Lucy! Get lost! Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, so is these big leaves for the Alocasia, considering is the plant so small, is a big amount of energy that the plant is using to keep those leaves up and running. So because the Alocasia Bambino has smaller leaves, I believe it can grow more leaves. You can see the difference already. You can see that they have similar sizes at the base. So it's a weird thing to say, but if you measure the square centimeters, the square inches of leaves, and you compare both of them, they're gonna be the same. It's like the same surface of leaves this plant has is the same one this has, but it's distributed along more leaves. Does it make sense? Am I sounding like a crazy person? But it's like they have the same amount of chlorophyll, but this plant just distributed it through more leaves than this one. Anyways, so to care for the Alocasias is very simple. I feel like in terms of water requirements, it requires a little bit more water than my other plants that like, for instance, Apodos requires. And you're gonna notice when the Alocasia needs water because it just droops its leaves like this. You're gonna look at your plant's like this. And I feel like if the pot gets like 2/3 dry, the plant is already doing that. So it's a little bit more high maintenance, but don't keep the soil moist all the time. Let the soil dry up in the first layers. Lucy!
I'm trying not to laugh.
Oh, anyway, life with cats. If you want to watch my video on how to make your cats and your plants live in harmony, we also have a video about that. Anyways, in terms of light, this plant is not the kind of plant you're gonna put in direct sunlight. Don't leave it in the sun. This is the classic bright indirect light, and if you want to know what is bright indirect light, you can watch my video on how to measure light that I go very much in detail about it. The type of soil you need to use is more like a normal type of soil you're gonna use. One thing to be mindful though, when you are repotting, I found out that a lot of my Alocasias that I bought this month came with a net around the roots. So if you're repotting, you might want to remove that, because something the growers use to, I think, keep the plant intact when they're moving it around, and it may damage the plant in the long term. In terms of propagation, I don't think this plant is easy to propagate like the other ones, like you have the pothos, for instance, because all the leaves come from just one node. So it's not like you can cut the leaf and propagate it. For instance, like the pothos, you have a node and grows a leaf, and then it grows another node, and then it grows another leaf. So if you cut the leaf with the node, you can propagate it. But in here, you can't just take one leaf and part of the node. But on the other hand, sometimes I already found in here, I swear I saw it. Sometimes it grows these little tubers around the base. So if you're reporting and you find this little, people call it corms or tubers, and we want to do a video about all these bulbs, tubers, and corms story. But they're little onions. It's little balls that are shaped in format of onions that you find this stuff in the soil. You can grow another plant from it. Overall, they're all beautiful plants. I'm in love with Alocasia. And if you want to know more about alocasias and dormancy and bulbs, you can check my other videos. And if you like this video, you're also gonna like this one, in which I talk about the Alocasia dormancy. Thank you for watching, and I see you soon. Bye. Say bye, Lucy. Now you don't have anything to say.
Say bye.